Money is one of the most powerful forces in our lives, yet few things are as misunderstood. We think of it as numbers, logic, and spreadsheets, but money is rarely about knowledge alone. It is about behavior. It is about fear, greed, hope, and emotion. Two people can look at the same financial situation and make completely different decisions, not because one is smarter, but because their life experience has shaped their relationship with money in unique ways. In The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel explores these hidden truths. Through stories and reflections, he shows us that building wealth is not just about what we know, but how we act. This is a book less about finance, and more about human nature. Chapter 1: No One's Crazy. When it comes to money, people make decisions that often seem foolish from the outside. But those choices usually make sense to them. Someone who lived through the Great Depression may never trust the stock market again. Someone raised during a bull market may see investing as safe and easy. Neither is crazy, they are simply products of their own experiences. The lesson here is humility. We must remember that our view of money is shaped by luck, timing, and memory, not just logic. What feels obvious to you may be unthinkable to someone else. Chapter 2: Luck and Risk. Success and failure in finance are never entirely earned. They are shaped by forces beyond our control. Bill Gates became Bill Gates in part because his high school happened to have one of the only computers in America at the time. His brilliance mattered, but so did luck. At the same time, his equally talented classmate Kent Evans died young in an accident, his potential erased by risk. The truth is that both luck and risk shape every financial story. Recognizing this should make us humble about our successes and forgiving of others' failures. Chapter 3: Never Enough. Perhaps the most dangerous financial trap is the inability to say, "I have enough." The moment we achieve one goal, we shift our sights to the next. We compare ourselves endlessly to others, and in doing so we risk sacrificing peace and stability for an illusion of more. True wealth is not about chasing infinity, it is about defining what is enough for you, and living within it. Without that definition, no amount of money will ever bring contentment. Chapter 4: Confounding Compounding. One of the most powerful forces in finance is compounding. Small gains, repeated over time, create extraordinary results. Warren Buffett is often celebrated as one of the greatest investors in history, but his true secret is time. He began investing as a child and stayed invested for decades. Most of his fortune was made after his mid-60s, not because he suddenly got smarter, but because compounding had finally done its work. The lesson is simple yet profound: wealth is not built overnight. It is built slowly, almost invisibly, until one day it seems unstoppable. The hardest part is patience, staying invested long enough to let time do the heavy lifting. Chapter 5: Getting Rich versus Staying Rich. It is one thing to get wealthy, another to stay wealthy. Many fortunes are lost because people fail to recognize the difference. Getting rich often requires risk-taking, optimism, and bold moves. Staying rich requires the opposite: caution, humility, and the willingness to survive. Survival is the key. You don't need to chase every opportunity or win every bet. You simply need to stay in the game long enough for compounding to work. That means avoiding catastrophic mistakes, keeping a margin of safety, and remembering that long-term success depends less on brilliance and more on endurance. Chapter 6: Freedom. At the heart of money lies one ultimate reward: freedom. True wealth is not about cars, houses, or status. It is about the ability to wake up in the morning and decide how to spend your time. Money, when managed wisely, buys independence. It buys control over your days, your work, and your choices. This is why many people who live modestly can be far richer in happiness than those with far greater incomes. If your time is your own, you are wealthy in the truest sense. Chapter 7: The Seduction of Wealth. Money can be blinding. We see the glamorous lifestyle of the rich and imagine that is the measure of success. But what we often fail to see is the stress, the pressure, the debt, or the endless chase for more that lies behind the curtain. True wealth is what you don't see: the money quietly saved, the debts avoided, the independence built in silence. The seduction of wealth lies in appearances, but the truth of wealth lies in security. The person driving the modest car with no debt may be far richer than the person driving the luxury car financed to the hilt. Chapter 8: Tails Drive Everything. In investing, as in life, a small number of events often account for the majority of outcomes. A handful of big wins can outweigh countless small losses. This is known as the power of tails, rare but extreme events that shape history, markets, and personal fortunes. Most investors spend their lives worrying about being wrong half the time, but what truly matters is capturing the rare moments when things go spectacularly right. The stock market, technological innovation, and even human progress are all driven by a few outliers. The lesson is not to predict these rare events, but to stay invested and survive long enough to benefit when they come. Chapter 9: You and Me. We often forget that everyone is playing a different financial game. A day trader buying and selling stocks is playing a game of quick profit. A long-term investor is playing for decades of compounding. A retiree may be playing simply to preserve wealth. The problem arises when we take advice or make judgments without realizing that the other person is playing a different game than we are. The truth is that money has no single right answer. It depends on your goals, your timeline, and your values. Understanding what game you are playing, and ignoring those who are playing differently, is one of the most important insights in finance. Chapter 10: Save Money. There is a simple, timeless rule that underpins all financial success: save money. It doesn't matter how high your income is, or how clever your investments are, if you spend everything you earn. Savings are the foundation of freedom. They are the buffer against risk, the margin of safety that lets you survive downturns, and the fuel that allows opportunities to be seized. The beauty of saving is that it requires no market prediction, no genius, no timing. It is entirely within your control. And unlike flashy investments, it may not impress others, but it quietly builds the wealth that truly matters. Chapter 11: Reasonable or Rational. People like to think of money as a rational science, but in reality, what matters most is being reasonable. Pure rationality would tell you to invest every penny in the most mathematically efficient way, regardless of your feelings. But human beings are not robots. We have fears, emotions, and dreams. Being reasonable means building a financial life you can stick with. It means choosing investments you believe in enough to hold through downturns. It means striking a balance between what makes sense on paper and what lets you sleep at night. A reasonable plan, consistently followed, will always beat a rational plan abandoned halfway through. Chapter 12: The Psychology of Wealth. Wealth is not income. It is not status. It is not flashy displays. Wealth is what you don't see, the money unspent, the assets quietly compounding, the freedom slowly built. True wealth is less about getting rich and more about staying rich. It is the patience to let compounding work, the humility to respect luck and risk, and the wisdom to know when enough is enough. The psychology of money is the psychology of life itself. It teaches us that success comes not from brilliance, but from behavior. It reminds us that the goal of money is not more money, but freedom, independence, and peace of mind. And it shows us that mastering money is less about mastering markets, and more about mastering ourselves. Closing reflections. As you step away from this exploration of the psychology of money, remember that wealth is not a finish line. It is a mindset. It is the ability to live on your terms, to sleep well at night, to enjoy today while preparing for tomorrow. The true power of money is not in what it buys, but in the control it gives you over your own story. If you can embrace patience, humility, and the courage to define enough, you will already be richer than most. For in the end, money is not about beating others. It is about building a life of meaning, security, and freedom, and that is the kind of wealth that endures.